I am approaching an impasse. This one's not going to stay up. I don't think this one's going to stay up. I have allowed people to speak for me, to make promises about equity that I have never been confident in fulfilling. I have allowed people who understand the scene even worse than I do, which is not to say that I understand it well, but folks who understand it worse than I have made certain promises publicly, but I wouldn't say to the public, but they have made promises nonetheless. I think more important than the fact that they were publicly visible, but again, not public promises. Made promises to themselves, to their own sense of right and wrong, and to people who will be our coworkers, people who will be our collaborators. They made certain assurances about representation that I, through my omission, allowed myself to appear to agree to. And as such, I feel the need to do my best to hold myself to those promises. Despite the fact that I think they were, as I say, based off of a poor understanding of the scene, based off of assumptions about availability, based off of assumptions about me as well, I should say. I should say that as somebody who is within the scope of this matter, in a position of authority, my unvoiced, even internal biases have surely, I think, shaped the direction that have put us in a position like this. I don't solutions that were apparent to me at times went untested. And now I'm here, where I feel like it's not unfair or unreasonable to say that my choices are between making a movie that is bad in a certain way or a movie that is bad in another way. There is no, and perhaps unless a very specific thing happens, which I already have evidence to not believe will happen, the game I play is zero sum. It's entirely one or entirely the other. There is no compromise. The game is zero sum. So I put myself in the shoes. Hmm. Hmm. And either way, it's my call. Either way, it's my decision. But my decision will impact other people. I have volunteered to put my name to and take responsibility for something that, quite frankly, has more importance to others, has more consequence in the lives of others than it does mine. By design, knowingly, this was the case. This isn't a surprise. This isn't what I've realized. So I can. My options are legion. I can. I can say I can abdicate even more responsibility, and I would rather, here's what I would rather do. I would rather take all the responsibility, make the mistake that I know is a mistake in a certain dimension entirely upon myself, because I am more comfortable hating myself than I am begrudging others for impressing their will upon me. I would rather do the thing I want to do for the reasons I want to do it, acknowledge that not all of those reasons aren't evil, and blame myself, then I would rather make the mistake other people want me to make and end up resenting others. I don't want the option I don't want the option to hold others accountable. I don't want at any point down the line to be able to say to anyone else, if you let me do what I knew was right, what I knew was not right, but if you let me do what I wanted to do, this specific problem that you are making me have, I would not have to have. And if only I could convince other people that the problem that would be created by doing what I wish to do would be born entirely by me, as I would hold it. I would know that problem as something born entirely by me, something that reflected solely on me. That's what I would prefer, because that's already what I live with. That's not strange for me. That's safety. Holding myself responsible for making my own life miserable is square one. But it will reflect on others. It will affect others. And at the same time, I can say other people have done this to me. And at the same time, I can say this is my environment. But just as much as I can say those things, I need to point to the fact that this is just more proof. And it is, again, an abdication of my responsibility. It's not enough to simply say, I am hateful and therefore not a socialist. It's not enough to simply say, I am insufficient and wallow in insufficiency. It's not enough to grasp the theory without also participating in the praxis. And this is a matter of praxis. This is a matter of how one's principles and how one's beliefs are exercised. And one can belittle oneself and one's own experiences and one's own opportunity as just my own little affair that doesn't impact the world. But those are the bricks at the base of the pyramid of white supremacy. The diffusion of responsibility. The diffusion of responsibility is is what allows each of us to perpetuate great injustice while only ever committing small injustices. So one has to ask, can one live with oneself having selfishly committed a small injustice? Knowingly. And here's the real kicker is that even the action at hand itself would not be an injustice if not for the things around it. Because there was an opportunity for compromise. There was an opportunity for insight. There was an opportunity for equity. And those junctions have passed. And we've arrived now, finally, at an ending which is zero sum. An ending which is entirely one or entirely the other. An ending in which we at least clearly tried, or an ending in which we are illustrative of the problem at hand, in which we embody everything we claim to be against. What else can be done? Everything that can be done has to be done. But again, it's too little now. It's too little at this point. And who am I? Who am I to choose anyone else? Who am I to position myself and posture as if I have anything to offer anyone else? What do I know? What do I have? Everything, everything is an act. Everything is a fantasy. Everything is a construction. Even doing the right thing is a performance. Because in this case, as so many, the goals of culture and the goals of production, beyond not being aligned, are in conflict. We see before us a problem that in a certain dimension is already solved, and in another dimension is unsolvable. And in yet another dimension has an alternate solution as obvious as the first. An unstoppable force meets an unmovable object. And the only available path forward beyond the paradox is to say one of those forces, one of those elements, is something which I'm willing to sacrifice. And the issue is, if I sacrifice culture, I believe I can achieve production. But I have no faith in myself that if I sacrifice production, I will be able to achieve culture. I believe in that direction lies only pitfalls. More complex, more nefariously hidden, deeper, darker, and with sharper pits at the bottom than I could ever completely imagine. I don't want to tread that path. I don't want to dare it because I am a coward. I don't want to dare it because I know myself enough to know what will befall me, one way or another, inevitably. And one can call that a self-fulfilling prophecy if one wishes to misunderstand that all prophecies are self-fulfilling. That prophecies themselves are the fuel that drive people to realize their conclusions. Obviously, that's how prophecies work. Disgusting. But still, even if I were to achieve production as I've envisioned it, the fact that it is done so without culture will make it so deeply sullied. And I can live with that. If everyone would simply agree to blame me, I would live with that. If they wouldn't hold themselves responsible for that decision, if they wouldn't guilt themselves for being associated with such a deplorable project and solely blame me for tricking them into agreeing to participate, then I could live with that. But if they would insist on consenting to my decision alongside me and would refuse to mark their objections, if they would make themselves not merely bystanders, but collaborators, I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear it. And if they would make themselves facilitators of an attempt to walk the cultural path, what did they facilitate? Well, me, again, being torn apart. Well, if I can carry this blame, why can't I carry that blame? Well, because I can control that. I can predict that. I can bring that upon myself. This will be inflicted upon me from outside. It will be unpredictable. But I can still predict that it will be, even if I don't know what form it'll take. Either way lies the path of ruin. Either way lies devastating disappointment. Because I was weak, because I was insufficient, because I was stupid, because I was not enough. I only have one more junction. Not one where I can make things right. Ooh, far from it. Such an opportunity is long gone. Long ago did I paint myself into this corner. One more junction where I can seek counsel, perhaps forgiveness, this isn't a true dilemma. The last time I said that, I brought down catastrophe. The last time I said that, I hurt people I care about. So that can't be the single guiding star I look to. Simply my own intuition. Because doing what I believed to be right, specifically as an alternative to doing what I wanted, thinking again that at the path of pain lies reward, lies virtue. I brought about only sorrow and confusion and contempt. So even that, even the way, even when I cut it down to the starkest emotional reality, when it seems like things are plainest, even then, I'm rudderless. Even then, what I know doesn't let me know the answer. Perhaps the only option is suicide. And for once, dear viewer, alien archaeologist, I don't mean it literally. I mean perhaps the only way to truly speak is to be so honest that those around me have no option but to hate me. To really tear down the walls, to really truly go mask off. Perhaps that's the only thing to do to make it so that the right thing to do is no longer an option available to me, and only the thing that I wish for remains. Perhaps that's the only way to make things right. To really make it clear to the world that you can't be right and be at my side. Don't be so self important. Are you kidding me? Again, stale and scope and worth. You need to keep all these things in mind. Hmm. No one cares about you as nearly as much as you do. If you find somebody who does, then that's a blessing. But you can't go around scorning your blessings or just scorning others as you could a blessing. It's so unheard of. But again, isn't everything else a performance? Isn't everything else a lie? We're all constantly performing. To call what humans do socially a lie is to be so antisocial to the point of misanthropy. Not to say that I'm not guilty of that anyway. What's the problem? I wish I could speak with others. Because surely if I could, I wouldn't be in this situation. But surely because I can't is why I'm in this situation. So do you try to work your way out of this situation by continuing the patterns that brought you here, or do you break with your patterns? Do you break with your patterns and assure you'll never have to deal with such a situation ever again by virtue of the fact that you'll never deal with any situation ever again? Do you make an effigy of yourself in the flames of the remaining goodwill gathered at your feet? No, obviously. No, obviously. Because to do so is actually a hitherto unconsidered third, more selfish than is comprehensible option. Even more selfish than simply saying, I want to do the thing I want to do because I want to do it. Hard decisions are only hard when what you should do is so clear. Those decisions are hard to talk about. They're hard to solve because they're hard to talk about. They're hard to talk about because talking about them requires a thorough examination and exploration and explanation of your own bigotry, your own ignorance, for all the reasons you resist the thing you should do, for all the selfish nitpicks and petty self-justifications it would clearly, obviously be better. But it's not what you should do. It's not what you can allow yourself to do because you have a responsibility, as small as it might be, to make the world a slightly better place. Because the alternative is not letting the world remain as it is. The alternative is making the world a slightly worse place. Such is existence on this side of the slippery slope. Either you are pushing something back up, or you are complacent in allowing it to slide further into the apocalypse. Is that to say any individual one of us are capable of preventing the apocalypse? No. Of course not. That's why it's the apocalypse. But that's to say, only if we all push together can we possibly keep society from entirely collapsing. Only if we all keep what is good above us on the slippery slope and are constantly working our way towards that peak will we ever improve anything for anyone. Other than just sheerly, selfishly ourselves. That's simple somehow. Will you just let what's good slide past you and make your own way up the slippery slope? It's easy to do when you have no burden or load and all that matters to you is yourself. It's easy to climb when you're only carrying yourself. Of course. That's why we have an entire economic system that's built on that. And a Randian assumption that if we all just carried ourselves up, then somehow, first of all, we'd all make it. And second of all, there'd just, I don't know, be more good at the top waiting for us, or that the good would just tag along despite the fact that we left it behind. Ridiculous, ludicrous lies. Ugh. On one hand, my only hope is that one, because I know the other, but one of my colleagues has a truly pure heart, free from guilt. I know that's not the case. I know nobody's that pure. But if he could make the decision for me, then I'd be free. We could all do the right thing and just know that it's not our fault the world is evil. But more likely than not, he'll want us to do the right thing. And I'll have to reconcile with that. As we should. And we should simply say whatever material pursuit, whatever production we thought we wanted to prioritize, it doesn't matter as much as simply being the people who do the right thing. Even if the right thing doesn't matter, which it won't, because the people that it could hurt specifically will be fine. We'll be fine. We'll just have to be the people who saw a house burning and didn't bring a bucket of water. Would the bucket of water put out the burning house? No. But if we all stand by and nobody brings water, then the house burns to the ground and everybody inside it dies horribly, screaming, bones made ash, never to be properly buried and honored. I've discovered another way out. One that is both honest and self-obliviating. One that may, if deployed, cause the rest of the project to crumble and will certainly cost me personal relationships, which I would like to say I value. But what's that worth in the face of pure production? Mm-hmm. 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 Doesn't matter, ultimately. And I think this is not to say that anything matters, because things matter. But just accepting that your personal interests don't matter isn't nihilism. But I can see how this dilemma leads people to conclude that nihilism is all that remains. You can't make anything good while breaking the rules, but you can't live by the rules because they're evil. Only the people who have played by the evil rules gain the advantage to change the rules. But when they're the rules that gave them power, why on earth would they even consider changing them? The story is old as time, no doubt. Ugh. Definitely the thing to do is rely on your friends. But in the end, bear as much responsibility as they'll let you carry. Definitely the thing to do is to say, so that we understand, if we pursue the cultural route, we are creating a cultural artifact. We're no longer pursuing production. Just so we are all clear, if we pursue the cultural path, our work becomes more play than work. And if we are okay with that, as we should be, given the circumstance we're in, we should simply accept that the right thing to do is play. And although we came here to work due to our collective, but let's, for the sake of simplicity, call it my incompetence, we cannot do well and work any longer in the eyes of more of us than less. Eh. Everything else is a justification. Everything else is say that the time and effort of individuals is worth more than, again, you can't measure these sorts of things. There are no units of equity. There are no articles of peace. Why capitalism has no interest in them? Because they can't be subdivided, packaged, marketed, sold. War can, of course. War can be measured in deaths and bullets and kilotons. But peace is measured in what? Smiles, deep breaths, clear skies, thoughtless afternoons, restful sleeps. Happy babies. Happy lives. Can't sell those. Ugh. Can't fill a cardboard crate. Ugh. In every dilemma is dichotomy. And the only dichotomy that matters is work versus play. Is your job versus your free time. And either we say, listen, we participate in the system, we do what is best for production, we play by rules which are evil, and we work. Or we say we value something else. We say we'll work towards an ideal in a small and ultimately and obviously insignificant personal way. And in doing so, we make our work play. That's the only decision. Do we work or do we play? We can play hard. We can play hard. But it won't be work. Yeah, okay. That I can live with. That I think I can live with.